new concept for us. Now, there's a lot of incentives that are proposed and they're on the table right now to help shift consumers to want more hybrids and want more fuel efficient cars. And an interesting one is by Amory Lovins, so the man who built the house in Colorado that we saw in the beginning, with feebates, where for every Hummer that's purchased, there's going to be a tax for that consumer. They'll have to pay me, let's say, $7,000. And then there's a rebate for each person who actually goes and buys like a hybrid or a Prius. So that $7,000 never actually goes into the government. It actually is transferred from the purchase of a Hummer to the purchase of a hybrid, kind of encouraging the consumer to go for the hybrid. Some of these other ones, though, are really cool. The having, an express lane where only the hybrids can be driven, or maybe you get a better parking spot. But there's a lot of projections that in the next 2 decades you're going to see a lot to these hybrids. One reason is because of their efficiency. So right now the Prius gets about 50 miles per gallon, which it's about double what all of us get in our gasoline powered cars. So they're driving farther on less fuel, and the reason they're able to do this is because the car operates on a battery and gasoline. So it does use some gasoline, but only when you hit the accelerator. So when you're braking, there's no gasoline being used to brake. And actually in that braking process, they're able to take some of the energy from the heat that's created when you're braking to actually recharge the battery. So the battery is pretty efficient also. Some developments that you're going to see in the future, I think, will be the materials of the car and actually the aerodynamics. So from the first Prius to the third generation Prius, you've seen a lot of changes in the model, and you'll continue to see that because there's a lot of material science that's still being developed, especially with carbon and the restructuring of some carbon molecules. They can make it lighter and stronger and better protection. So that will actually bring down the excess energy needed to move a heavier car, for instance. One disadvantage would be that the currents that are charging the Prius or the other hybrids, a lot of that energy is actually generated at coal and nuclear power plants. So a big push here by the government is to hopefully start using wind to help to power those batteries. And another technology that is being investigated a lot, in addition to the electric vehicle, would be fuel cell vehicles. So fuel cells use hydrogen. So hydrogen gas, you guys remember from chemistry, it's H with a subscript of 2, so 2 atoms of hydrogen bonded together. Now, there are some problems we'll get to in just a minute, but the process of this is you're taking hydrogen gas, you're combining it with oxygen gas, like the oxygen we breathe, and the byproduct of that is H2O, which is just water. And in this case, it's going to be water vapor. So there's no carbon in this formula. You don't see any C's here. That means it's pretty clean burning, so you're not going to be emitting any additional carbon into the atmosphere. And one of the forerunners in this technology is China. They've actually made a large long-term commitment to harnessing and developing this. So to get a better idea of how fuel cells generate electricity, hydrogen atoms are passing over 2 charged plates. You can see this plate's charged negatively, this plate is charged positively. And as it's moving across those plates, there's actually energy generated, which helps to generate the electric power to run the car. So it's actually from the hydrogen passing over these 2 charged plates to bond with our oxygen. So that byproduct is water vapor, and the other byproduct is actually more hydrogen gas. So this is something that can be actually reused in this entire process, that can be recycled back up to the top. Great things about this would be it's double the efficiency of combustion engines. Like we have, you can see there's no moving parts, so you're not going to have to spend as much money on replacing things, getting your car, when you go to take it in for inspection, you won't have to get as many things altered on it. It's really quiet. Some of the downfalls, though, would be it takes a lot of energy and money to actually make this fuel. So hydrogen fuel cells have really low net energy, and that's really big. We talked about net energy before and how that plays a large role in what we're going to buy, and so that's important. We need to make it have a higher net energy, and that may not be possible because this hydrogen that we start out with, that hydrogen fuel, has to come from somewhere. Another reason is that the hydrogen gas is not readily available. It's actually locked up in methane, which is a lot of it's locked up in like our ice and the Arctic and Antarctic. It's also in water and gas. So to actually extract that H and get it by itself takes a lot of energy. A third reason would be that fuel cells, so in general, this technology is the best way to generate electricity for the cars right now, but it's really expensive to do this, so cost is too high. And the last, hydrogen production, so getting the hydrogen fuel to start the process, a lot of times is done by actually emitting carbon dioxide from like the burning of coal or gas. So it's not always necessarily 100% emissions free because of the process to mine it and get it. Hopefully also, as you're reading Earth, you've come to the realization that we're actually in need of new resources now, because peak oil is predicted to reach here in 50 years or less. So it's imperative that we start to look at these technologies with a serious tone, because it's going to be a necessity eventually. So you're going to need the hybrid or need the renewable energy once we run out of or hit the peak for our fossil fuels.